everybody, and welcome back to the Marketing for Learning podcast. It's Hannah here with you today, and I want to talk to you about a topic that we've alluded to many times on the podcast, and that's storytelling. Storytelling is so important to human existence. Stories are all around us. We are receiving stories and we are telling stories even when we don't quite realize it. So it's no surprise that storytelling is such an impactful marketing tool, and it's one that you really should utilize in your Marketing for Learning initiatives. So let's get stuck in, shall we? First things first, we need to really acknowledge how much storytelling really is part of human existence. Storytelling has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. If we think back to parables that people were told through our religions, our cultures, a lot of the things we know and understand are simply messages that have been passed down through generations. And that is storytelling in action. That is somebody saying, hey, look, you want to learn this lesson, and if you don't do it the right way, this bad thing might happen to you. And then that's passed on through the years and through the generations. So storytelling isn't new. And it's actually completely ingrained in us as human beings. In the 1940s, there was an experiment run by Hyder and Simmel. And this experiment was quite simply a video of a bunch of shapes moving around on a screen. There was nothing adding anything more to the video than these shapes moving around. Most or a large percentage of the people that watched it added their own narrative to these shapes moving around. Why was the triangle running away from the circle, and so on? Because we were interpreting it, we were watching it, and we were adding our own narrative to it and our own story to it. So if our brains think based on stories, why wouldn't you create a story to grab the attention of your target audience, to get their butts moving and to get them learning? There are 5 main components to any story, and there are a lot of different frameworks out there that you can use to help you stick to your storytelling guidelines. I often use the Story Spine, which I might do a social media post about. But it's very much fairy tale like. It's and once upon a time, and because of that, until one day, and it helps me with my creativity when it comes to storytelling. But there are so many different frameworks out there, and regardless of which one you use, as long as it's helping you craft a narrative and craft a story, it is absolutely perfect to use. I'm not here telling you which framework to use. I am here to tell you that there should be 5 elements to any story that you're putting out within your marketing. And the first element is unsurprising. It's your character. So in our situations, it will be our audience. It will be our learner, for want of a better word. Our people, our target audience, should be front and center of this story if we want the story to be able to evoke emotions and instigate change. The second element of your story should be a conflict. We talk about pain points when we're developing out learner personas, and often your pain point will point towards a conflict, a challenge your character is facing in their role, a problem they are looking to overcome, a gap in their knowledge or understanding. That will be your conflict in your story. And if you have a conflict and you want it to be a nice story that's actually going to instigate action, you need a resolution. And often in marketing, that's our product or our service. So in your case, your learning offering will be the resolution in your story. The fourth element to great stories is emotion. It's no good saying once upon a time there was a lady that really wanted to learn about leadership, so she took a leadership course at the end. We want to instigate emotion. Maybe we want to recognize emotions that our people are already feeling and show them how we can transform that emotion into something maybe more positive, more impactful for their life. But emotions have to be in there. And lastly, the story needs to be authentic. We can't go too far with our stories. I've spoken a lot about this, especially in email marketing. We can't lie to people. We can't trick them into believing us. And we can't make up something that's completely unbelievable when it comes to storytelling. You can't say, this woman really wanted to be an astronaut, so she took our leadership training, which gave her growth mindset, and then she was an astronaut. That's not believable at all, is it? We need it to be authentic. We need it to be relatable and something that our audience can go, hey, yeah, that's me. So now we understand the 5 sections, or the 5 components rather, of a story. How does that come to life within marketing? Because none of us see marketing. I say none of us. We don't often see marketing that starts off with once upon a time. And that's typically what we think of when we're thinking of telling a story, isn't it? So how do these stories come to life in marketing? The first example I want to use is probably one that we use a lot in L&D because it's such a globally recognized brand and it really is a learning platform. And that's Duolingo. For anybody that's been living under a rock and don't know what Duolingo is a language learning platform, essentially. You can learn pretty much any language on there in just a few minutes a day. So it's bite-sized if it's around your life. Duolingo often have their adverts based on a specific location. So if you're at a bus stop, it will reference the fact you're at a bus stop. If you're on the tube, the same. They've even been known to do adverts in the toilet with the tagline, squeeze a little more into your day, which really did tickle me when I first saw it. So with all of these adverts, they're actually telling a story. And you might think, well, Hannah, how's a poster that's got 5 words on it telling me a story? But let's break it down a bit. Their first component, the character. You are the character in their story. They are talking to you directly and they want you to be learning a new language. The conflict here is about being time poor, and wasting time is often what's come up. So bus is late again, open Duolingo. The Jubilee line's mucked up, Duolingo. Sitting on the toilet, Duolingo. The conflict there is about making the most of your really, really precious time. The resolution in this story is Duolingo, like we just said. Learn a new language in a few minutes on your phone if you've been stood up, if the train's late, if I don't know, you sat on the toilet for too long. It's about squeezing the most out of your day. So Duolingo is always the resolution there. The emotion, well, it's tapping into 2 things. It's tapping into the frustration we all feel when we're having our time wasted. I think we've all been there when a bus or a train's been late, or maybe when we've been stood up, or whoever we're meeting is late, or I don't know if we've all been there when we've sat on the toilet for too long. But you know what I mean? It's tapping into a frustration that we all feel day to day. But it's also tapping into this humor. They do it all in a very comical way, and it's adding some light to when people might be feeling really quite frustrated. And then it's so authentic, isn't it? You can't deny that we've all been stood at a bus stop thinking I've got better things to be doing. Or maybe stood in a queue thinking I've got better things to be doing. Maybe you travel a lot for work. Maybe you're going through airport security and it's taking you an hour to get through it. And you're thinking, oh, think of all the things I could be doing. It's a really, really authentic story too. So that's how Duolingo bring out a story in a really simple advert. And that's how we should be thinking as learning professionals, promoting and marketing our learning content. Let me give you another example. And it was actually a project we worked on with our friends at Decra Academy. We created a whole campaign with the tagline, better veterinary care starts with you, start with Decra Academy. And this campaign, of course, had a variety of different tactics and tools that we used amongst it, but the story really is within that tagline. So the character, better veterinary care starts with you. We are calling out in this tagline anybody that works in the veterinary profession. We aren't saying vet nurses, we aren't saying vet surgeons or anybody else that works in the veterinary profession. We are just talking to you, that person that works in veterinary care. It's vague, but it's deliberate. And if you were a vet surgeon and you read it, you'd think they were talking to you. Likewise, if you're a vet nurse, or maybe if you were somebody who just worked in a vet, perhaps you weren't a skilled, qualified veterinary professional, but maybe you were the receptionist. You would read that and it would resonate with you. So we've got our character down. The conflict tapped into something that we uncovered during our discovery phase, that quite a lot of people in the veterinary profession were quite frustrated with the care that animals were getting, and they wanted to always provide the best possible service. So better veterinary care starts with you. We are addressing the conflict with better veterinary care. And the resolution, that couldn't be more obvious, could it? Our second part of the tagline is start with Dechra Academy. So we're saying Dechra Academy is the solution to providing better veterinary care. The emotions are plentiful in this tagline because we're evoking that emotion of where people really wanted to provide better care for animals. We're adding quite a powerful emotion about putting you front and center, and almost a burden, maybe. It starts with you. We're imparting that pressure almost. And we're also given the relief at the end. Start with Dechra Academy. With the resolution, we are providing a sense of comfort, a sense of ambition, a sense of community. There are a lot of emotions we are evoking within this tagline, within this story we are telling. And lastly, the authenticity. As I said, the tagline actually was born from a lot of discovery work, but also we used user-generated content and stories and case studies from vet nurses, vet surgeons, and everybody in between to convey that story about why Dechra Academy is the solution to providing better veterinary care. So we can see how the story here is coming to life in just a few words. So the important thing to remember here is that just because we're telling a story, we don't need to start with once upon a time. We can tell a story in a really subtle way that really creates an impact when it comes to marketing. So think next time when you're putting a piece of marketing out, what is the story I'm trying to tell here? And am I conveying that story and all 5 components of it in a way that's actually going to get butts moving, that's actually going to get people learning, that's actually going to raise awareness of our offering or create a desire of our offering? Is it going to make people advocates of our learning? Whatever your objective is, think about your story, think about your marketing, and work out whether that story and that piece of marketing is actually going to get you towards your end goal, whatever that may be. Thank you for listening in today. It was a bit of a whistle-stop tour on quite big topics. I'm sure we'll be talking about storytelling again on the podcast. Maybe we'll do a webinar or a live podcast on the topic too. As always, if you've got any queries, any questions, anything you want me to clarify, any podcast suggestions, any topic suggestions, I'm open ears. Get in touch, drop me a message on LinkedIn. I love hearing from you all. And if not, I will see you on the next podcast, guys. Bye.